Okay, so now that you have Python through the Anaconda distribution installed, it's time to begin trying out our first Python session. So if you go to your desktop, you can see the lovely view of Italy on my desktop. Enjoy that just for a moment. If you have a Windows machine, you hold down the Shift key and right click. You will see that you can open the PowerShell. So there's other ways to do it, but I think this is easy. This is an option. Of course, you can always go down here to the search bar and type in CMD for the command prompt. I think the PowerShell is a little nicer looking personally and easier to read for those of you who might have difficulty reading off that black background. I want to keep it kind of small. I like to do that. All that you need to do, if you want to run Python directly, you can just do the following. Type Python, enter, and you're at a command line cell. You can do it that way. What I prefer is a different method. What I'm going to have you do in this class is we're actually going to use Jupyter notebooks, which will be very similar to, in a lot of ways, to our Markdown files. And in fact, there's a Markdown functionality within Jupyter notebooks that we can use, that we can make use of here. And I want us to use it this way. So we want to, oh, wait, I didn't need to do that. That's okay. Shift, PowerShell again. We want to actually do the following. You used to type in IPython notebook, but that's now deprecated. So I'm not spelling correctly. Let me fix my spelling. You just type in Jupyter notebook. Wait, it'll take a moment. And here I have my console running. There's going to be some information down here. First of all, I want you to take a look at what we have here. We have a list of folders and other subfolders that contain are accessible within Jupyter's startup directory, more or less. This isn't a notebook yet, but there's not very much we have to do to get started a notebook. In fact, the very first thing that we want to do is we want to go right over here to New. And then under the heading Notebooks, you notice we have the option to create a new notebook using the Python 3 kernel. Right now, I don't have other kernels accessible. I'm going to keep it simple right now for teaching purposes. But this is how we will get started. So go ahead and select New, Python 3. This should all work seamlessly with your Anaconda distribution installation. The dashboard here is pretty easy to understand, I think. But I'm going to take kind of a big view at first. We have different components here. We're going to be calling these cells, and then there will also be outputs. But I kind of want to first think about some of the structure here. You'll notice at the very top, oh, you can't notice because I don't have that visible. Let me extend my window a little bit. I have an untitled name right now. And in fact, if I change tabs back to the URL that is hosting my dashboard here, you will see that I have a running notebook right now, Jupyter notebook. And it's right here. It's called Untitled. I'll show you in just a moment how we can save that with some sort of informative name. But you might notice the extension. What is that IPYNB file? Each of these files is basically more or less a text file that gives a thorough description of the notebook that you see here. Okay, so it just describes that. It's in a format that's called JSON. If you know something about that, this isn't something that I knew about before or used much before learning about Python programming, but it basically fully describes each cell contained in your Jupyter notebook, and then what its contents are, and then any kinds of things you include in there, such as, I don't know, images or whatever, text, other things. You can actually open that, so you can go to Edit and go to your notebooks and everything. You can do that if you want. I would wait and know exactly what I'm doing before I do that, because that makes me a little nervous. But I think right now we just need to know it exists. Notice that when I clicked on here, some options appear above. I can get rid of it. I can do other things as well. I can shut it down. I can duplicate it if I say want to take the code and modify it slightly for another purpose, for example. So I have some options here back at the dashboard area. So let's go back to the notebook page. Okay, so as mentioned before, in this notebook interface, we have something that I think will help us be able to, number one, understand our code a little bit better, but will also produce a product of each programming session. And I might have you, I don't see any reason why not. I think I'll just have you turn in and document your programming sessions that we do in class. You can also copy and paste using Markdown type file extension, homework problems, and conduct your homework in the Jupyter Notebook just like you did for the Markdown files. So I think that's super handy, and I really like doing it this way. I may just have that preference and nobody else likes it, but I guess you got to deal with that while I'm your instructor, okay? A good rule of thumb, anytime you open a new Jupyter Notebook, it's a really good idea to go ahead and save it. So here, you can save. This can be just a checkpoint here in terms of saving your work as you go. You can also go up here, make a copy of this, or rename this. So if I say want to rename it because Untitled is just too generic, and yes it is, we could call it something like let's be a little less, a Python program. Okay, informative. And now you notice that instead of having that generic label Untitled, it says a Python program here. So I go back to the dashboard. There it is. And it's still running. All right, so we can do our basics. I'm going to end the video after this. But we can do some very basic script in this environment that will introduce you to some early ideas. Okay. What is a programming course without typing hello world, right? So go ahead and type that. Notice I'll move my my arrow there. Hello world, it has to have parentheses and quotation marks. You do Shift, Enter, and there your output appears. You can use this as, just like in R, you can use it as a calculator. Shift, Enter, and there it is. You can use previous output. So what's going to happen if I do this? Well, what happened? How did I get 21? Well, it took the previous output, multiplied it by 3, and I get 21. And I can do other things. For example, as we start learning things and we want to document some of our code, maybe for a practice or maybe for a homework or something, for a particular cell, when you're just doing the code, you keep it as a coding cell. But you can change this to a markdown cell. Markdown cells are really cool because you can make a heading. Shift Enter. There's my heading. Cool, huh? But you can also do other things. You can type expressions, include, I'm trying to think of a few fun things to do here for you. Equations, or have images even. I don't really have an image ready, but I'll get that ready in just a second. Oh, what happened there? I was not paying very good attention. Let's go back. We have to recode that as a markdown cell. Okay? So there we go. Did you remember how I typed that? You can go back and look again in the video. But I did 2 asterisks around expressions, so that makes it bold. 1 asterisk around equations, and that makes it italic. So expressions, I did that because maybe you want to make boldface an expression versus an equation. We usually have those italic, right? Okay, I'm going to stop there. I think 11, almost 12 minutes is enough here. We'll continue at that point on the next video.